Hi, Mary, and thank you. And thank you, CitA, for inviting me to share the results of the survey today at the conference. My name is David Bain. I'm Research Manager at NBS, and I'm going to take you through a bit of a preview of the survey results as they stand at the moment, because the survey is still running. So we're just about to close it at the end of this week. So there is still time to take part if you haven't done so and would like to do so. So just a bit of background on the survey. So you may know that we started running a BIM survey and did the first report for that in 2011. And over the next 10 years, we tracked the kind of the course of BIM and how people were using it, particularly in the UK, but with also with findings from other parts of the world, including Ireland and beyond as well. About 2-3 years ago, we thought we would broaden that out slightly and manage the survey as a digital construction survey to kind of reflect other ways of working and new technologies that were emerging. And so that's what we've been doing since. So the last survey we did was in 2021, and we're running this survey now in 2023. So I'm going to take you through, as I say, a kind of preview in terms of the sort of almost live findings, if you like, as to what that's telling us at the moment. But the final figures will probably change slightly because, as I say, responses are still coming in, and we'll be publishing the results formally in a couple of months' time. So I would ask that you don't kind of go sharing sort of specifics of what you've seen today, because, as I say, the findings will change a little bit. And what I'll do is, as we go through, I'll show you the findings for the survey as a whole, but also the findings for Ireland and people in Ireland broken out separately, so you can see the comparison. Okay, so just a quick bit of background in terms of what we've done with the survey and how we've run it. So it's sent to built environment professionals in many different roles. Primarily, it's focused in the UK, but we have a lot of respondents in overseas, in other places, and we have worked with CitA in Ireland to promote the survey here to get representation from the profession in Ireland. And the survey is also supported by other organisations, institutes, and membership bodies in an effort to get as wide a range of representation as possible from across the industry. The survey went live in July. As I say, it's closing at the end of this week, and we had, when I put this presentation together, 628 responses, and 37 of those from in Ireland. But that number might have changed in the last few hours, and may well be hopefully going up a little bit more throughout the week. So the profile of the people that have taken part in the survey include people from kind of all the different parts of the project team, but it is focused on consultants and designers and specifiers in particular, and that's probably partly to do with the origins of the survey. That's where we kind of started it, and where NBS is kind of main kind of audience and customer base resides, but we have tried to broaden it out, and in some ways that's happened kind of naturally as people have picked it up and put their views forward. And as you can see, we do have contractors, suppliers, manufacturers, clients, and lots of other organisations and professions that take part. And whilst the designer group is the biggest, we have enough from the others to be able to say some things about those sectors too, which is really useful to get the different viewpoints from across the different professions. As I say, we've got about 37 or so people who've taken part who are based in Ireland, and we hope that increases this week, which is about 6% of the sample. And we have people who've taken part in the survey from at least 50 countries around the world. So about 120 of the people that did the survey were based outside the UK. So it's quite a range of representation. And then in terms of other things to mention, just to sort of show that we've got a wide range of people taking part. There are people from micro-sized businesses with sort of 1 or 2 people working there, right up to multinational organisations that are across borders and different offices and facilities with sort of over 1,000 people within them. And plus we have people from a range of ages and career experience taking part too. So we start off asking about BIM. We still include several questions on BIM as part of the survey. So the first one is to ask about people's understanding of BIM and what they think it is. And I know this is something that's debated a lot and has been discussed over time. People have different viewpoints, and the kind of the way people view BIM has perhaps evolved and changed as well over the years. From things that I've sort of been aware of and watched and listened to, there's a feeling that people are trying to sort of simplify it and kind of talk about it using more plain language so that it's more accessible for everybody. And as part of that, we can see here that quite a lot of people are perhaps viewing BIM as a quite simply better information management, sort of way of managing information in a better way than perhaps we have done before, and that reflects some changes that we've seen in the industry, like NEMA, for instance, in the UK, rebranding from the BIM Alliance and things like that. So quite a lot of people are perhaps seeing it that way. There's also a lot of people seeing BIM as the foundation of digital transformation, which I hear about a lot. I've heard that being talked about today. And then you've also got similar numbers seeing it in the more kind of process kind of terms of the standards. So in particular, the International Standard Suite 19650. We do still see some people kind of perceiving it to be more kind of 3D modeling, which is, I know, a kind of perspective that was seen quite early on in the days of BIM, that it was kind of perhaps just working in Revit or working in models. And you can see there's still perhaps more of a minority now, but still some people who kind of see it that way. So then we wanted to know who's adopted BIM and who's kind of doing it, if you like, based on the way they perceive BIM. And you can see here that for Ireland in the purple, and for the sample as a whole in the kind of bluey green color, it's not that different. For Ireland, it looks like it's around about 2/3, and for the sample as a whole, about 70%. And what we can also see here is that doesn't appear to have changed very much in the last few years. So in terms of the adoption of BIM, we saw quite a steep growth from 2011 and particular times of acceleration, for instance, around the BIM mandate in the UK in 2016. And then it appears to have kind of leveled off a little bit. So it's kind of hovered around that 70% mark now for the last few years. So I'm sure there'll be different views on why that might be. And I've heard today in other talks of, the actual number of buildings being created using BIM processes is lower than that. And these are just the organizations that say they're using it rather than the projects themselves. But certainly there's part of the industry which isn't doing it at the moment. We do ask a bit about some of the tasks specifically and processes that people have adopted, just to kind of find out whether when people say they're doing BIM, what that actually is in practice. So we ask about a range of the things which are mentioned in the standards, for instance. So you can see here that quite a lot of people encouragingly are using and working in some of those ways. So over half saying that they use common data environments, and a little bit less, sort of depending on where you are, working with or developing BIM execution plans. You've got around 2/3 to 3/4 following a naming convention when information is shared. And we're seeing, 40 or so percent exchanging information in IFC formats, things like that. So that, there are some of these things happening in practice, but they're similar-ish levels to what we've seen before, rather than necessarily a big growth. So I want to talk about some of the other technologies in the last few minutes before finishing, which is firstly about cloud computing. So we've asked whether people have adopted that and are using that in their work, and we can see here that around about 80% say that they do, and that's grown since the last time that we asked this, and has shown a steady growth over the time we've been asking about this in our surveys. And we wanted to understand a bit more about what that means, and we can see that the biggest way people are using cloud computing is for storage. But also, lots of people were using it to collaborate and share documents with clients and things like that. In terms of virtual, augmented, and mixed reality, this is an interesting one in that we've seen that people have been experimenting with this for a while, but the actual numbers saying that they use it hasn't really grown very much over the time we've been asking about it. So it's hovered around this kind of 30-35% sort of mark. And the biggest way that people appear to be using it are to do things like client walkthroughs and that kind of thing. So sharing 3D images of the building before it's constructed to take clients through. So offsite construction is an area where we have seen some growth in people working on projects that have used these techniques. So this is up to around about 3/4 now, which is higher than it was in 2021. Obviously, offsite can be a lot of different things. So we've asked people a bit more about what that means, and so the most common most common types are using sub-assemblies and accessories, which I think is probably not that surprising, but there are examples of people using sort of more volumetric modular construction. So that's a third for the sample as a whole, and a bit higher it looks in Ireland. So quite a lot appears to be happening in this area. Digital twins is an area where it's been talked about a lot over the last few years, and we've seen in our past surveys that a kind of small minority have been using these on projects. But this has grown a little bit in the last few years, and we're to the point now where about 1/4 of people are saying that they've been involved with digital twins on projects that they've been working on. And using those in quite a variety of ways. It isn't necessarily a kind of standout reason why people are using them. So, a combination of things like to mirror the construction as the assets being built, to create an accurate model at the end of it, to kind of inform design stages and help flag clash detection and that kind of thing, and also to create a twin for enabling improvements and retrofit to existing buildings as well. And the last but not least one that we asked about, unsurprisingly, given the amount it's been talked about in the last few months, is AI. So when we've asked about this in the past, there's always been a very small minority, sort of single figures, of people saying that they're doing anything with AI. So whilst that hasn't suddenly jumped up to everybody saying they're doing that, it has increased, and we've now got around about 1/5 of people saying that they are using it in some way. And a couple of things that were mentioned from people in Ireland were things like optimizing early stages of design through different options, which basically can be done more quickly and at a larger scale, but also for things like analytics and also for learning as well. So in going forward, which of those things do people think will sort of help to transform the built environment for the better the most over the next 5 years? So BIM is the thing that people still see as being that sort of transformative influence that will help to do that, on the basis I think that it helps to enable the other things. The couple of things that have changed a bit, so artificial intelligence is 4th on that list, which is interesting in being seen as more perhaps important than digital twins or VR. So it'd be good to monitor this over the next sort of couple of years to see how that changes. And I've included a couple of comments there that people made about how they see BIM and these relating ways of working and how they might affect things in Ireland. And they do mention, for instance, the CWMF, which has been mentioned already, about something that might help to increase BIM adoption. So we do take the opportunity to ask a few questions sort of related to the topic. So given the change we've seen in the last couple of years following the pandemic, we asked where people are planning to work over the next 5 years. And it does appear to suggest that hybrid working is kind of very much here to stay at the moment, with over half saying that they expect to split their time between home and their usual, kind of previously usual place of work. And it's also, we always make sure that we ask about kind of the outcomes. So all this change, obviously needs to be here for a reason, which is to improve buildings and assets in the places and spaces where we live and work. And these figures tend to have stayed fairly similar over the time that we've done these surveys. But positively, the vast majority of people do see digital technology as helping to enable better places, helping to improve sustainability and building safety. And the last point I want to kind of make is we've heard quite a lot in reports and presentations over the years that construction lags behind other industries. We wanted to see if people still thought that was the case. So we asked whether people thought the industry no longer lagged behind. Kind of unfortunately, not a huge number of people who do agree with that. Around about 1/4 think it doesn't lag behind anymore. So there's some who feel like it's caught up, but more than that, and almost half disagreed. So in effect, feel like it still lags behind. But people definitely do see digital transformation as relevant to them and to all organizations, not just large organizations. So there's a couple of closing thoughts I just wanted to kind of make. So just with the caveat that this is still a live survey and there's lots of data we haven't really looked into in detail yet, which we'll be doing over the next few weeks. But it does suggest that levels of BIM adoption haven't changed that much over the last few years. So some of the challenges and barriers, I think, excuse me, are still there that are affecting people. And we found often these key things are the challenges for small practices and lack of client demand. But also other ways of working definitely are increasing. Cloud computing, offsite, digital twins, AI, those kinds of things, we're seeing increases. And the professionals generally do want to adopt these ways of working. And another point to make is that the picture in Ireland and the UK, there are quite a lot of similarities that we're seeing here too. And my last slide is just if anybody does have a moment over the next few days to complete the survey and would like to share their view, then that's the link to the survey. I think it may be available elsewhere throughout the conference. So it would be great if you could take part and share your view too. So thank you very much.